I wanted to share the process of the house build that we went through in 2007. And the only way that I can really do this is to page through this book that my wife put together. She was really good about chronicling the process, the build process. And so I'll kind of keep it brief and talk through the build process, what we took on, what we decided to hire out to subcontractors. And I want to state at the outset that I'm not doing this to show off, or I don't want to seem pretentious. I just want to, at a most basic level, I think it's still that the American dream is alive in a lot of ways, that you can do this yourself, that you can still build a home on your own by and large. And in doing so, you can get into a house that is pretty awesome for what we could afford. We got into more than if we would have just paid a general contractor to build it. So my son Gavin, at 2 years old, we're standing over the hole. We had already poured footings, put rebar up. You can see here that we have already started the build block, or ICF process. These are insulated concrete forms. They build up like Legos, they interlock, and then you pour concrete into the center and they become an amazing structural wall. I wish that I would have done my entire home in that. Our daughter Grace, she was less than a year old. Kids having fun on the Bobcat. So the pour was like 26 cubic yards into this all at one time. This is the lower level of our home. Some windows in the basement and a walkout patio door. I wish I would have done both levels. Like I said, I just didn't have the courage to do all the window bucks for the upper level and know that I was going to get the door openings right and everything. But in hindsight, the insulation value, the soundness of it, I wish I would have done it instead of paid to have it framed. It's level on grade after backfill. This is the garage, basement, as we started to do plumbing, rough-in plumbing, and frame some walls in. I did build right instead of OSB. Just doesn't decay as much. Advantages, disadvantages. This is my mom. I did not do the framing. I had a crew come in and do the framing. The reason was I kind of picked my battles. I was doing stuff like digging in the plumbing, and that was a lot of work, and I don't regret that. They did a great job. It was a lot. It was more than I could have done, and you usually need a crew to do that. I insulated the basement, and I also put in-floor heat throughout it, so I have a vapor barrier plus 2-inch foam. And then I did all of the in-floor heat tubing. We had to pressurize the system before we poured to make sure that it wouldn't, we didn't puncture a leak or a hole when we were pouring the floor. This is my 60-year-old godfather, Frank, at the time, wheeling concrete for me. Call in a lot of family and friends help. Putting in the septic system, GM drilling in the well. This is the upper level. We had a 19-foot ceiling, so I had to build scaffolding in order to get up high enough to do the electrical and all kinds of stuff. This is me walking fast so nobody would ask questions. As the framing came together, we roofed it ourselves. We had hail damage and re-roofed it about 5 years later. It was originally a clay color that was kind of ugly, like a green clay. This is Mark Weimer. He's a shop teacher at Apollo High School. I still owe him a debt of gratitude. He helped a ton on this house, including helped me do all the siding. He was really kind of the lead on that. He's really good with that stuff, and helped with the tiling as well. My mom with the shop vac, that was what she did. She cleaned up on the job site, but it was huge to make the project turn out better, because when you work in a clean environment, you do better work. My wife stripping the beams in the front, Mark doing siding. My brother-in-law Jay, who's a mason, he was the lead on it, but we all laid stone on the front of the house. Insulation, I did not do. Had it spray foamed and then batt insulation after that. Again, it's a lot to do. I could have just done batt insulation, but the spray foaming, I would tell everybody, it's amazing. Icynene spray foam's awesome. My wife grouting stone. We were doing this right towards freeze up, end of October. Some shakes that are vinyl. This is in-floor heat on the upper level, so I laid tubing on the entire upper level as well. And then I actually poured concrete on my main level, like a thin 2-inch layer. And screeded that, and then troweled it out. And in hindsight, again, I wish I would have just finished that concrete with a trowel finisher and acid stained it. And instead I tiled over the top of it. I put tongue and groove hickory on the ceiling throughout the upper level. We installed all that. We didn't make the wood or finish it. Poured the driveway, had to wrap that up because it was getting cold. My mother-in-law and father-in-law, who are now passed away, they helped us paint and grout. This is Mark helping me lay tile throughout the house. And my buddy Rick Larson, who just was general labor, not that skilled. Still a good friend. My brother-in-law Cy painted some murals in the kids' bedrooms. That was his talent and ability. I built the railing in the house out of square tubing, and I actually fabbed it in place and left a bunch of spindles out, and then took it out to the garage and finished it, put the spindles in there. Cy finishing up some painting. My dad's an electrician. He did all the wiring into the panels, and I helped pull the wires, but he did all the smart stuff. Installing the sink here, moving the cabinets in. I did not build the cabinets, hired that out. And the end. We've been in the house for 13 years, at least the end of the house build.